Amid the cold, hunger, and abandonment of the streets, a girl walks alone, lost among shadows and solitude. Among torn bags and wet cardboard, she hears a faint cry that shouldn't be there. As she approaches, she finds an abandoned baby, fragile, wearing a medallion that holds an unimaginable secret. From that moment on, their lives intertwine, beginning a journey that could change everything forever. If you love great stories, please subscribe to our channel and comment where you're from. Let's continue. On the outskirts of Detroit, where abandoned factories stood like ancient ruins against the winter sky, 16-year-old Lily Carter walked alone. The biting Michigan wind cut through her threadbare jacket as she moved between dumpsters and piles of discarded waste, searching for anything useful. 5 months on the streets had taught her that one person's trash could be her survival. Her nimble fingers, cracked and reddened from the cold, sifted through plastic bags and cardboard boxes. Each breath formed a small cloud in front of her face as she worked methodically, her blue eyes scanning everything with practiced efficiency. Lily hadn't always lived like this. 2 years ago, she'd had a home with her grandmother in a small apartment on the east side. It wasn't much, but it was warm and there was always food in the refrigerator. Then came her grandmother's illness, the mounting hospital bills, and finally the eviction notice that changed everything. After her grandmother was taken to a state facility, Lily had bounced between shelters and friends' couches until there were no more options left. Now her home was an abandoned railway car in a forgotten industrial lot, where she'd created a semblance of shelter with scavenged blankets, plastic tarps, and broken furniture. It wasn't much, but it was hers. Most importantly, it was invisible to the authorities who might send her into the foster care system. Tonight's scavenging had yielded little: a half-eaten sandwich still in its wrapper, an aluminum can she could add to her recycling collection, and a woolen scarf that, despite its holes, would provide some extra warmth. As the first snowflakes began to fall, Lily decided it was time to head back to her makeshift home. She was cutting through an alley behind what used to be an old textile factory when she heard it, so faint at first that she thought it might be the wind whistling through broken windows. She paused, listening. There it was again, a weak, muffled cry. Lily followed the sound, her steps cautious. In the shadows behind a rusted dumpster, she found a bundle wrapped in what looked like an expensive blanket, now soiled and wet from the snow. When she pulled back the fabric, her heart nearly stopped. A baby, no more than a few months old, lay, shivering, its tiny face red from crying and cold. The infant's whimpers had grown so weak they were barely audible above the wind. "Oh my God," Lily whispered, immediately dropping to her knees. Without hesitation, she removed her jacket, ignoring the biting cold that instantly assaulted her thin frame, and wrapped it around the baby. She picked up the small bundle, cradling it close to her chest. The baby's skin felt like ice. Its crying had diminished to a faint whimper, which Lily knew was a dangerous sign. She had to get the child warm, and quickly. "It's okay, little one," she murmured, tucking the blanket more tightly around the tiny body. "I've got you now." As she adjusted the blanket, something caught her eye, a glint of silver around the baby's neck. A pendant hung from a delicate chain, bearing an intricate emblem that looked like a family crest. It was the kind of thing Lily had only ever seen in movies, something that spoke of wealth and privilege, far removed from the world she inhabited. She stared at it for just a moment before returning her focus to the immediate crisis. The baby needed warmth, and it needed it now. Lily ran as fast as she dared through the snowy streets, clutching the infant close to her body, trying to transfer whatever warmth she had left. Her railway car was 15 minutes away, too far for the baby in this condition. She needed help now. 3 blocks away was Miller's pharmacy, where old Mrs. Miller sometimes let Lily use the bathroom or gave her expired cold medicine when she was sick. It was her only hope. By the time she burst through the door of the pharmacy, Lily's lips were blue with cold, but she barely noticed. The small bell above the door jingled as she entered, causing Mrs. Miller to look up from behind the counter. "Mrs. Miller," Lily gasped. "Please help. I found a baby." The older woman's eyes widened as she came around the counter. "Lord have mercy," she whispered, peering at the bundle in Lily's arms. "Martha," she called to her assistant, "turn the heat up and bring all the blankets." From the back room, Mrs. Miller led Lily to a small break room behind the pharmacy counter. "Put the little one here," she said, clearing a space on the worn couch. "Where on earth did you find this child?" "Behind the old textile factory," Lily explained, her teeth chattering as the warmth of the room began to thaw her frozen limbs. "Someone left it there, just abandoned it in the snow." Martha appeared with an armful of blankets, and Mrs. Miller immediately set about wrapping the infant in layers of soft flannel. As they worked, the baby's cries grew stronger, a good sign. "It's a boy," Mrs. Miller announced, her experienced hands checking the child quickly for obvious injuries. "And he's wearing quite fine clothes beneath all this dirt." She paused, noticing the pendant around the baby's neck. "What's this?" Lily explained about the silver medallion with its ornate crest. Mrs. Miller examined it closely, her expression changing. "I've seen this before," she said slowly. "On the news." She looked up sharply. "Martha, turn on the television." Martha flipped on the small TV in the corner of the break room, where it was already tuned to a local news channel. She didn't need to change the station. The story was everywhere. The screen showed the face of a distinguished-looking man with graying temples standing next to a beautiful woman whose eyes were red from crying. Behind them was a mansion with columns that looked like something from another world. Tech billionaire William Brooks and his wife Eleanor are offering a $5 million reward for information leading to the recovery of their 3-month-old son Nathan, who was kidnapped from their Grosse Pointe estate 2 days ago. Police have no leads on who might have taken the infant or where. The 3 women stared at the screen, then at the baby now sleeping peacefully in the warm blankets, the distinctive silver medallion gleaming at his throat. "That's the Brooks family crest," Mrs. Miller whispered. "This is their baby." Lily felt her world tilting. The baby she'd just rescued wasn't just any abandoned child. He was the missing son of the richest family in Michigan, a family whose wealth and influence were legendary, whose home in Grosse Pointe might as well have been on another planet, compared to the streets where Lily scraped by. "We need to call someone," Mrs. Miller said, reaching for the phone. "The police or the number on the screen." "Wait," Lily said, surprising herself. Can I hold him again first?" Mrs. Miller hesitated, then nodded, carefully transferring the now sleeping infant back into Lily's arms. Lily gazed down at the tiny face, now peaceful in sleep, cheeks pink instead of the dangerous blue-white they'd been when she found him. Something powerful and protective surged through her, a feeling she couldn't name, had never experienced before. For the first time in months, she felt a purpose beyond simple survival. "I saved him," she whispered, more to herself than to the others. He wouldn't have made it if I hadn't found him." Mrs. Miller placed a gentle hand on Lily's shoulder. "You did a brave thing, girl, a beautiful thing." Martha was already dialing the number from the television. As Lily cradled baby Nathan, she stared at the faces of his parents on the screen. Their world and hers had never been meant to intersect, yet here she was, holding their most precious possession, the heir to a fortune she could barely comprehend. She wondered what would happen next. Would they reward her and send her on her way? Would they even want to meet the homeless girl who'd found their son? Would anyone believe she hadn't been involved in the kidnapping? As these thoughts raced through her mind, the baby stirred in, her arms, his tiny fingers wrapping around one of hers with surprising strength. In that moment, something shifted inside Lily, a resolve forming, a connection taking root. Whatever happened next, she had saved this child. And somehow she knew that act would change everything. Outside the pharmacy windows, the snow fell harder, covering Detroit in a blanket of white that temporarily hid the stark divisions between wealth and poverty, between those who had everything and those who had nothing. Inside, Lily held a baby worth millions to the world, but somehow in those quiet moments as they waited for whatever would come next, worth even more to her. Within 20 minutes of Martha's call, the quiet pharmacy transformed into a hub of frantic activity. 2 black SUVs with tinted windows pulled up outside, followed by a sleek ambulance bearing the logo of Grosse Pointe Memorial Hospital, the private facility where Detroit's elite received their medical care. Lily stood in the corner of the break room, still holding baby Nathan, watching as men in suits conducted hushed conversations on phones and earpieces. The contrast between her worn clothes and their polished appearance made her acutely aware of the gulf between their worlds. A pediatrician in an expensive-looking wool coat entered, accompanied by a woman whose crisp pantsuit and commanding presence identified her as someone important, without a word being spoken. "I'm Dr. Bennett," the physician said, approaching Lily with a gentle smile. "And this is Ms. Reynolds, the Brooks family's personal assistant. We'd like to examine Nathan." "Now." Lily nodded, reluctantly transferring the sleeping baby to Dr. Bennett's arms. The doctor immediately began a thorough examination, her experienced hands moving with practiced efficiency. "Amazing," Dr. Bennett murmured after several minutes. "Besides mild hypothermia and slight dehydration, he appears completely unharmed." She looked up at Lily with undisguised wonder. "You found him when, exactly?" "About an hour ago," Lily replied, her voice smaller than she intended. Behind the Old Westlake textile factory, Ms. Reynolds, who had been typing rapidly on her phone, looked up sharply. "In this weather? What were you doing there?" The question hung in the air, loaded with unspoken assumptions. Lily felt her cheeks burn. "I live nearby," she said simply, not elaborating on what living nearby actually meant. Mrs. Miller stepped forward, placing a protective hand on Lily's shoulder. "This young lady saved that child's life," she said, firmly. "If she hadn't found him when she did, in this weather." She left the sentence unfinished, but everyone understood the implication. Ms. Reynolds's expression softened slightly. "Of course, the Brooks family will be eternally grateful." She paused, studying Lily more carefully. "How old are you?" 16, Lily answered, bracing herself for the inevitable questions about parents, guardians, and where she lived. Before Ms. Reynolds could probe further, the pharmacy door flew open. A gust of snowy air preceded the entrance of a tall man with salt and pepper hair, his expensive overcoat dusted with snowflakes. Behind him came a slender woman wrapped in a cashmere coat, her face a mask of anxious hope. William and Eleanor Brooks had arrived. The room fell silent as the couple moved directly toward Dr. Bennett, who still held their son. Eleanor's composure cracked at the sight of the baby. She let out a sound somewhere between a sob and a gasp, reaching for Nathan with trembling hands. "Oh my God, William, it's him. It's our boy," she cried, gathering the infant into her arms. William Brooks stood beside his wife, one hand on her shoulder, the other gently touching his son's face, as if reassuring himself that the child was real. Lily watched from her corner, feeling strangely like an intruder, witnessing something too intimate, too raw. Yet she couldn't look away. The love radiating from the couple was palpable, filling the small room with an energy that made her chest ache with emotions she couldn't name. After several minutes of reunion, William Brooks looked up, his eyes scanning the room until they landed on Lily. Something in his gaze shifted, recognition perhaps, or simple awareness that this girl was somehow connected to his son's return. "You found him?" he asked, his voice deep and steady despite the emotion of the moment. Lily nodded, suddenly unable to form words. William Brooks approached her, stopping a respectful distance away. "Mrs. Miller told us what happened when we called. You saved my son's life." He paused, studying her with intelligent eyes that seemed to catalogue everything about her appearance. "I don't know how to begin to thank you." "I just did what anyone would do," Lily mumbled, uncomfortable with the attention. "No," William said firmly. "What you did was extraordinary. Most people would have walked by or called authorities and left. You took him in your arms, gave him your own coat in freezing weather, and carried him to safety." He extended his hand. "I'm William Brooks. I owe you everything." Lily stared at the offered hand for a moment before taking it. His grip was warm and firm. "I'm Lily. Lily Carter." Eleanor approached, still cradling Nathan against her chest. Her eyes, though red-rimmed from days of crying, were clear and focused now. "Lily," she said softly, "thank you for bringing our son back to us." The sincerity in her voice made Lily's throat tighten. She nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Miss Reynolds stepped forward. "Mr. Brooks, we should get Nathan to the hospital for a full examination, just to be safe." William nodded, but his eyes remained on Lily. "Of course." He turned to his assistant. "Ms. Reynolds, please arrange for Miss Carter to come with us. I'd like to continue our conversation somewhere more comfortable." Lily blinked in surprise. "Oh, that's not necessary. I should probably—" "Please," Eleanor interrupted. "We insist. It's the least we can do." Before Lily could formulate a response, she found herself being ushered outside to one of the waiting SUVs. Mrs. Miller gave her a quick hug before she left. "Go on, girl," the older woman whispered. "This is Providence at work." The interior of the SUV was warmer and more luxurious than any vehicle Lily had ever been in. The leather seats were heated, and a partition separated the driver from the passenger compartment. William Brooks sat across from her, while Eleanor and Nathan traveled in the ambulance with Dr. Bennett. "Lily," William began once they were underway, "I hope you don't mind my directness, but I'm curious about your circumstances. Mrs. Miller mentioned you were alone when you found Nathan." Lily tensed. Here it came. The questions she'd been dreading. She considered lying, inventing a normal life with parents waiting at home, but something in William Brooks's direct gaze made her opt for honesty. "I don't have anyone," she said simply. "My grandmother raised me, but she got sick 2 years ago. She's in a state facility now. I've been on my own since then." William's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in his eyes. "And where do you live?" Lily looked out the window at the passing streets, watching as the rundown neighborhoods gradually gave way to more affluent areas as they headed toward Grosse Pointe. "I manage," she said evasively. "That's not what I asked," William said, his tone gentle but firm. Lily met his gaze. "I have a place. It's not much, but it's mine." A slight frown creased William's brow. "Are you in school?" "I was," Lily said. "I had to stop last year." She straightened her shoulders slightly. "But I still study. The library lets me use their computers, and I borrow textbooks when I can." William nodded slowly, as if filing away this information. "What subjects interest you?" The question surprised her. Most adults wanted to know about her living situation, whether she had enough to eat, whether she was in trouble, practical concerns. No one had asked about her interests in a long time. "Mathematics," she answered after a moment. "And physics. I like understanding how things work." A smile touched William's lips. "Interesting. I studied engineering before I started my company." He paused. "Lily, I want to help you. You've done something extraordinary for my family, and—" "I don't need charity," Lily interrupted, the words coming out more sharply than she intended. "I didn't help Nathan because I wanted something in return." "I know that," William said quietly. "That's precisely why I want to help. Not out of obligation, but because I recognize something in you, something rare." Lily didn't respond, uncertain how to process his words or the intensity behind them. The SUV slowed as they turned onto a private drive, passing through ornate iron gates that opened automatically. Lily peered out the window, her eyes widening at the sight of the Brooks estate. The main house was an impressive limestone mansion set back from the road, surrounded by meticulously landscaped grounds now covered in pristine snow. Lights gleamed from every window, casting a golden glow across the white landscape. "This is Lakeview," William said, watching her reaction. "Our home." Lily had seen houses like this in movies, but never imagined she'd set foot in one. As the SUV pulled up to the entrance, she noticed the ambulance already parked nearby, medical staff helping Eleanor and Nathan inside. "Come," William said, as a uniformed driver opened their door. "There's someone I'd like you to meet, someone who's been instrumental in the search for Nathan." Lily followed him up the steps and through massive wooden doors into an entrance hall with soaring ceilings and a chandelier that sparkled like captured stars. The contrast between this palace and her railway car home was so stark it made her dizzy. Standing in the center of the hall was a man in a tailored suit, his posture military straight despite his gray hair. His expression brightened at the sight of William. "Is it true?" he asked eagerly. You found him? William nodded, emotion finally cracking his composed facade. Yes, Robert. Nathan's home, safe and sound, thanks to this young woman. He turned to Lily. Lily Carter, this is Robert Donovan, our head of security and my oldest friend. Robert extended his hand, his grip firm when Lily shook it. Miss Carter, he said, his voice rough with emotion. You have no idea what you've done for this family. Lily shifted uncomfortably under his grateful gaze. I just did what anyone would do. Robert exchanged a look with William. No, young lady, what you did was extraordinary. He studied her face intently. And somehow familiar. Have we met before? I don't think so, Lily replied, certain she'd remember meeting someone from the Brooks household. Robert frowned slightly, then shook his head. My mistake. It's been a long few days. William placed a gentle hand on Lily's shoulder. Robert, please have Mrs. Fleming prepare a guest room for Miss Carter. She'll be staying with us tonight. Lily started to protest, but William held up a hand. It's late, it's snowing, and you've had quite an ordeal. At least give us one night to properly thank you. Too overwhelmed to argue, Lily nodded. As Robert left to make the arrangements, she caught sight of her reflection in a gilded mirror across the hall, her thin face, tangled hair, and worn clothes a stark contrast to the opulence surrounding her. In that moment, Lily Carter knew nothing would ever be the same again. She had crossed a threshold between worlds, and there would be no going back. What she didn't yet realize was just how profoundly her life was about to change, or the secrets that lurked beneath the surface of her miraculous encounter with the Brooks family. Lily woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, momentarily disoriented by the unfamiliar softness beneath her. The guest room at the Brooks estate was larger than any apartment she'd ever lived in, with a four-poster bed draped in Egyptian cotton sheets and a sitting area complete with a marble fireplace. Last night, a kind-faced housekeeper named Mrs. Fleming had shown her to this room, provided her with silk pajamas, and informed her that fresh clothes would be waiting in the morning. Sure enough, laid out on a chaise lounge, was an outfit that must have cost more than everything Lily had ever owned combined. Designer jeans, a cashmere sweater, and leather boots. She ran her fingers over the soft fabric, marveling at the surreal turn her life had taken in less than 24 hours. After showering in a bathroom equipped with more amenities than she knew what to do with, Lily dressed in the new clothes. Surprised by how well they fit, she was brushing her hair, now clean and smelling of expensive shampoo, when a soft knock came at the door. "Come in," she called, setting down the silver-handled brush. Mrs. Fleming entered, her grey hair neatly pinned back. "Good morning, Miss Carter. I trust you slept well." "Better than I have in years," Lily admitted. The housekeeper smiled warmly. "Mrs. Brooks asked me to inform you that breakfast is being served in the garden room whenever you're ready. Dr. Bennett has examined young Master Nathan thoroughly, and I'm pleased to report he's in perfect health thanks to your quick thinking." Relief washed over Lily. "That's wonderful news." "Indeed." Mrs. Fleming gestured toward the hallway. "Shall I show you to the garden room?" Lily followed the housekeeper through corridors adorned with original artwork and antique furniture. The morning light spilled through windows that overlooked Lake St. Clair, its frozen surface glittering like diamonds. The vastness of the mansion was overwhelming. They passed at least a dozen closed doors before reaching a sun-filled space at the back of the house. The garden room was a glass-enclosed conservatory filled with tropical plants and wicker furniture. Eleanor Brooks sat at a round table, cradling Nathan in one arm while sipping tea with the other. She looked up as Lily entered, her face breaking into a genuine smile. "Lily, good morning. Please join me." She gestured to the chair across from her. As Lily sat down, a uniformed staff member appeared silently at her elbow. "Coffee or tea, miss?" "Coffee, please," Lily replied, feeling out of place despite the warm welcome. Eleanor studied her approvingly. "The clothes suit you. I had Miss Reynolds pick them up last night. I hope they're comfortable." "They're beautiful, thank you," Lily said, glancing down at Nathan, who was awake and alert in his mother's arms. "How is he?" Eleanor's expression softened as she looked at her son. "Perfect. Dr. Bennett says he's remarkably resilient. No lasting effects from his ordeal. She hesitated, then added in a more subdued tone, "The police still have no leads on who took him or how he ended up where you found him." Lily nodded, not knowing what to say. The coffee arrived, along with a plate of pastries and fresh fruit that made her mouth water. "Please eat," Eleanor urged. Eleanor. "William had to attend an emergency board meeting this morning, but he'll join us as soon as he can. He's very eager to speak with you again." Lily took a croissant, trying not to devour it too quickly despite her hunger. "Mrs. Brooks." "Eleanor." "Please." "Eleanor," Lily corrected herself. "I should probably be going soon. I don't want to impose, and I'm sure you want family time with Nathan." Eleanor's expression turned serious. "Lily, you saved my son's life. You are not imposing." She hesitated, then continued more softly. "William told me about your situation, that you're on your own." Lily stiffened. "I manage fine." "I'm sure you do," Eleanor said carefully. "You're clearly a remarkable young woman, but we'd like to help you if you'll let us." Before Lily could respond, the garden room door opened, and Robert Donovan entered, his expression somber. "Mrs. Brooks, I apologize for the interruption," he said with a small bow. "May I speak with you privately for a moment?" Eleanor frowned slightly, but nodded. "Of course. Lily, would you mind holding Nathan for a minute?" Before Lily could process the request, Eleanor was transferring the baby into her arms. Nathan looked up at her with curious eyes, his tiny hand reaching up to touch her face. A wave of protectiveness washed over her as she cradled him, remembering how close he'd come to a very different fate. Eleanor stepped aside with Robert, their conversation too hushed for Lily to hear. Whatever Robert was saying caused Eleanor's expression to shift from confusion to shock. She glanced back at Lily, her eyes wide, before returning to their whispered discussion. After several minutes, they both approached the table. Eleanor reclaimed Nathan, but her demeanor had changed subtly. She seemed distracted, almost unsettled. "Robert has some business to discuss with William when he returns," she said, her voice carefully controlled. "In the meantime, would you like a tour of the grounds? The snow has stopped and it's quite beautiful outside." Lily sensed something had shifted, though she couldn't pinpoint what. "That would be nice, thank you." They bundled up in warm coats. Eleanor insisted Lily take a brand-new down parka from a closet full of outerwear and ventured into the winter wonderland of the Brooks estate. Nathan remained inside with his nanny, a young woman named Sophia, who had greeted Lily with barely concealed curiosity. As they walked along cleared pathways that wound through snow-covered gardens, Eleanor gradually relaxed, pointing out features of the property: a gazebo overlooking the lake, greenhouses where they grew vegetables year-round, stables that housed 4 thoroughbred horses. "William bought this estate 20 years ago when his first company went public," Eleanor explained as they paused by a frozen fountain. "It was in terrible condition then. He spent 2 years restoring it before we moved in." "It's beautiful," Lily said sincerely. "Like something from another world?" Eleanor gave her a thoughtful look. "I suppose it must seem that way." She hesitated, then asked, "Lily, may I ask you something personal?" Lily nodded cautiously. "Do you know anything about your parents?" The question caught Lily off guard. "Not much. My mother left when I was a baby. My grandmother never talked about her much, just said she was too young, too restless for motherhood. I don't know who my father was." Eleanor's expression was unreadable. "And your grandmother, what was her name?" "Martha. Martha Carter." Eleanor nodded slowly, as if confirming something to herself. "She raised you in Detroit?" "Yes, in Highland Park until I was 14. Lily's curiosity was piqued now. "Why do you ask?" Before Eleanor could answer, they spotted William approaching along the path, his tall figure unmistakable even at a distance. Robert walked beside him, both men engaged in intense conversation. Eleanor's posture straightened. "Let's meet them halfway." As they drew closer, Lily could see that William's expression was troubled. He looked up, noticing them, and his face transformed into a warm smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Lily, good morning. I hope you slept well," he greeted her, his voice betraying none of the tension evident in his bearing. "Very well, thank you," Lily replied, glancing between the three adults who seemed to be communicating silently over her head. William turned to his wife. "Eleanor, could you check on Nathan? I'd like to speak with Lily for a moment." Eleanor nodded, touching Lily's arm gently before heading back toward the house. Robert followed, leaving Lily alone with William in the snow-covered garden. "Let's walk," William suggested, gesturing toward a path that led to a small pavilion overlooking the frozen lake. They walked in silence for several minutes, the only sound the crunch of snow beneath their boots. When they reached the pavilion, William motioned for Lily to sit on a bench that had been cleared of snow. "Lily," he began, his voice careful, measured. "I want to ask you about the medallion Nathan was wearing when you found him." Lily blinked, surprised by the topic. "The silver one with the crest? I noticed it, but I didn't really examine it closely." William nodded. "That medallion is a family heirloom passed down through generations of Brooksmen. It bears our family crest and on the back an inscription." He reached into his pocket and produced the medallion, holding it out to Lily. "Look at the back." Lily took it, turning it over to read the tiny engraved script. "To our beloved son, Nathan William Brooks, on his christening day." "It's beautiful," she said, handing it back. "Yes, it is." William looked out over the frozen lake. "The strange thing is, Lily, that medallion wasn't on Nathan when he was taken. It was locked in our safe, waiting for his christening next month." Lily frowned, trying to process this information. "But he was wearing it when I found him. I saw it." "Exactly." William turned to face her directly. "Someone put it on him after taking him. Someone who had access to an exact replica of a family heirloom that very few people even know exists." A chill that had nothing to do with the winter air ran through Lily. "What are you saying?" William's expression was grave. "I'm saying that Nathan's kidnapping may not have been random, and the circumstances of you finding him..." He paused. "Robert has been investigating your background, Lily. Standard procedure when someone suddenly enters our lives, especially in connection with Nathan's disappearance." Lily stiffened. And he discovered something unusual." William took a deep breath. "Your grandmother, Martha Carter. Her maiden name was Martha Brooks. She was my father's sister." The world seemed to tilt beneath Lily's feet. "What?" "Martha left the family 40 years ago after a bitter dispute with my father over his business practices. She cut all ties, changed her name, and disappeared. We searched for her for years, but she didn't want to be found." William's eyes held Lily's. "Which makes you my cousin's daughter, Lily, your family." Lily felt as though the air had been sucked from her lungs. That's impossible." "Is it?" William asked gently. "Did your grandmother ever mention the Brooks family? Or Grosse Point?" "No, but..." Lily stopped, remembering something. "She had a box she kept locked in her closet. After she got sick, I found the key and looked inside once. There were old photographs, letters." Her eyes widened. "There was a silver medallion similar to Nathan's, but older looking." William nodded slowly. "Each generation has their own, but they all bear the same crest." He reached out, hesitantly placing a hand on her shoulder. "Lily, I believe your grandmother kept her connection to this family a secret, and somehow someone knew about you, knew enough to place Nathan where you would find him." "But why?" Lily whispered, her mind reeling. "Who would do that?" "That's what we need to find." "Out!" William's expression was resolute. "But one thing is clear, you didn't find Nathan by accident. You were meant to find him. And now that you're here, now that we know who you are..." He paused, his voice softening. "Lily, you're not alone anymore. You have a family. If you want." Lily stared out at the frozen expanse of Lake St. Clair, trying to absorb the magnitude of what William was telling her. Her entire understanding of her past, her identity, had just been upended. She was connected to this world of wealth and privilege that had always seemed as distant as the moon. And someone had known, had used that connection to orchestrate a reunion that could have ended in tragedy. "I need time," she said finally. "To process all this." William nodded. "Of course, but Lily—" He waited until she met his gaze. "Whatever you decide, you're welcome here. This is where you belong." As they walked back toward the mansion, Lily felt as though she were moving through a dream. The snow-covered grounds of the Brooks estate, her family's estate, stretched before her, beautiful and alien and somehow impossibly connected to her past and future in ways she was only beginning to understand. Behind them, unnoticed, a figure watched from the tree line at the edge of the property, a camera with a telephoto lens capturing their every move. By evening, news of Nathan's miraculous return had spread throughout Detroit's social circles. The Brooks family had released a carefully worded statement thanking a good Samaritan for finding their son, but omitting any details about Lily or the circumstances of the discovery. Nevertheless, reporters had gathered at the gates of the estate, their satellite vans forming a small media village on the public road beyond the property line. Lily watched them from the window of the library, where she had spent the afternoon, trying to absorb the shocking revelations about her heritage. William had provided her with old family albums and documents that confirmed his story. Photographs of a young Martha Brooks looking remarkably like Lily herself, letters between Martha and her brother, William's father, and newspaper clippings about the family rift that had torn them apart. "It's a lot to take in," came a voice from behind her. Lily turned to find Robert Donovan standing in the doorway, a manila folder in his hand. "Yes," she agreed simply. Robert approached, his military bearing somewhat softened by the gentle expression on his face. "I've been with the Brooks family for 30 years, he said. "I knew your grandmother when she was a young woman." Lily's interest piqued. "You did?" Robert nodded, setting the folder on a nearby table. Martha was brilliant, fiery, and principled, to a fault. When she discovered that her brother, William's father, was involved in some questionable business deals, she confronted him publicly. It caused a scandal that nearly destroyed the family company. "What kind of deals?" Lily asked. "Defense contracts with regimes that had questionable human rights records," Robert explained. "Different times, different standards, but Martha wouldn't stand for it. When the family closed ranks against her, she left everything behind, including her medallion," Lily murmured. "She was the only daughter, but the tradition included her." Robert's eyes held a distant look, as if seeing through time. "I tried to find her several times over the years, especially after old Mr. Brooks passed, but she had disappeared completely." "She never mentioned any of this," Lily said, struggling to reconcile this new information with the quiet, hard-working grandmother who had raised her. "Martha was nothing if not committed to her principles," Robert replied. He tapped the folder on the table. "I've compiled everything I could find about your mother as well." Lily tensed. "My mother?" "Caroline Carter," Robert confirmed. "She was 20 when you were born, left when you were 8 months old. Last known whereabouts were in Arizona, but the trail goes cold about 7 years ago." Lily swallowed hard. "And my father?" Robert's expression grew more cautious. "That's where things get complicated." He opened the folder, revealing a photograph of a young couple. Lily recognized her mother, thin, blonde, with the same blue eyes Lily had inherited. Next to her stood a handsome man with dark hair, his arm around Caroline's waist. "His name was Daniel Morgan," Robert said carefully. "He was working as a security consultant when he met your mother." Something in Robert's tone made Lily look up sharply. "Was?" "He disappeared shortly before you were born," Robert explained. "There was an investigation, but nothing conclusive was ever found. Most assumed he'd abandoned Caroline when she got pregnant." Lily stared at the photograph, at the face of the father she'd never known. "But you don't think that's what happened?" Robert's gaze was steady. "Daniel Morgan was one of my operatives. He was investigating corporate espionage against Brooks Industries when he met Caroline. His disappearance was never solved, but I never believed he would abandon his mission. Or your mother." A chill ran through Lily. "You think something happened to him?" I think, Robert said carefully, that there are too many coincidences surrounding your family's connection to the Brooks dynasty, and now, with Nathan being placed deliberately for you to find, he shook his head. Someone is playing a very long game. The implications were dizzying. Lily turned back to the window, watching as camera flashes occasionally lit up the darkness beyond the gates. Does William know about this? About my father? Not the details, Robert admitted. I've shared my suspicions about the kidnapping. Being connected to you, but not my theories about Daniel Morgan. Not yet. He paused. There's something else you should know, Lily. William has asked his lawyers to prepare guardianship papers. He wants to formally bring you into the family, give you his name, his protection, his resources. Lily turned back, startled. Guardianship? But I'm 16. I've been on my own for... You're a minor, Robert interrupted gently. And your family. William feels responsible for what happened with Martha, feels that if his father had handled things differently, you might have grown up here as part of this family. The thought was overwhelming, that in some alternate reality she might have been raised in this mansion with all its privileges and comforts. I don't know if I belong here, she admitted softly. Perhaps not, Robert agreed, but right now it's the safest place for you. Safest, Lily echoed, a new worry taking root. Robert's expression grew grave. Whoever orchestrated Nathan's kidnapping knew about your connection to this family, a connection that was supposed to be buried 40 years ago. They knew where you scavenged, your routines, your hiding places. They wanted you to find him, to bring you here. He held her gaze steadily. We don't know why yet, but until we do, you're potentially in as much danger as Nathan was. The realization hit Lily like a physical blow. She hadn't just stumbled upon a lost child. She'd been manipulated into a role in someone else's elaborate scheme, one that had already involved kidnapping and could have resulted in tragedy if she hadn't found Nathan when she did. I should leave, she said, her survival instincts kicking in. If I'm bringing danger to this house... No, Robert said firmly. Running won't solve this. We have security, resources, protection, and beyond that... He gestured to the family photographs spread across the library table. You have a place. Here, Lily. A birthright that was taken from you by circumstances beyond your control. Before Lily could respond, the library. Door opened and Eleanor entered, Nathan in her arms. Her expression was troubled. William just called, she said without preamble. The board meeting ran long because of some unexpected news. He's on his way home now, but he wanted me to tell you both something right away. She glanced at Robert. Someone accessed our private accounts 3 days ago, the day before Nathan was taken. The security breach originated from inside the company. Robert straightened, instantly alert. Which division? R&D, Eleanor replied. The Project Prometheus. Files were copied. Robert swore under his breath, a reaction that surprised Lily given his usual composure. I'll increase security immediately and contact my team. Eleanor nodded, then turned to Lily. William asked that you stay close to the house until he returns. Don't go near the windows or anywhere visible from outside. Alarm tightened Lily's chest. What's Project Prometheus? Eleanor and Robert exchanged a look that Lily couldn't interpret. It's classified, Robert said finally. A defense technology that Brooks Industries has been developing for the government. Very few people know the details. And someone stole it right before Nathan was kidnapped, Lily said slowly, putting the pieces together. You think the two are connected. It's a working theory, Robert confirmed, which is why we need to be extra cautious. He picked up the folder containing the information about Daniel Morgan. I need to brief my team. Eleanor, make sure all the exterior doors are locked and the security system is activated. After he left, Eleanor shifted Nathan to her other arm, studying Lily with concern. Are you all right? This must be overwhelming. I'm fine, Lily said automatically, the response she'd given to any inquiry about her well-being for the past 2 years. Just processing. Eleanor's expression softened. I can't imagine to go from being alone to suddenly discovering you're part of all this. She gestured around the library with its leather-bound volumes and family heirlooms. "I want you to know, Lily, that I fully support William's decision to bring you into our family. Not just because of what you did for Nathan, but because it's where you belong." The sincerity in her voice touched something deep inside Lily, a longing for connection she'd suppressed for so long. "Thank you," she managed, her voice thick with emotion. Nathan made a small sound, reaching out a tiny hand toward Lily. Without thinking, she extended her finger, which the baby immediately grasped with surprising strength. "He knows you," Eleanor said softly. "Children have an instinct for people who care about them." She hesitated, then asked, "Would you like to hold him while I check on dinner arrangements?" Lily nodded, carefully taking Nathan into her arms. As Eleanor left the room, Lily settled into a leather armchair, cradling the baby against her chest. Nathan looked up at her with curious eyes, his tiny fingers wrapping around a strand of her hair. "What's going on, little guy?" she whispered. "Who put you in my path?" Nathan's only response was a happy gurgle, his innocent face showing no awareness of the dangerous currents swirling around him. Lily felt a fierce protectiveness rise within her, a determination that no harm would come to this child again, regardless of whatever twisted plot had brought them together. A soft ping from her pocket interrupted her thoughts. The new phone. William had given her that morning. She shifted Nathan carefully to free one hand and checked the screen. It was a text message from an unknown number. "The medallion is the key. Trust no one inside the house. Martha left for a reason. Meet me at the gazebo at midnight if you want the truth about your father." Lily stared at the message, her heart pounding. Her first instinct was to show Robert or Eleanor, but the warning to trust no one inside the house gave her pause. How had this person gotten her new number? How did they know about Martha, about her father? She looked down at Nathan, who had fallen asleep in her arms, his face peaceful despite the danger and intrigue surrounding him. Whatever was happening, whatever secrets lay buried in the past, one thing was clear: she was now irrevocably connected to the Brooks family and their world of privilege, power and apparent peril. The question was, what would she do with that connection? And who was trying to use it for their own purposes? As the winter darkness settled over the Brooks estate, Lily rocked Nathan gently, her mind racing with possibilities. Outside in that darkness, someone waited, someone who claimed to know the truth about her past. The question was, could she risk trusting them when she barely knew who to trust inside these walls? The clock on the library mantel ticked steadily toward midnight, each second bringing her closer to a decision that might change everything. Dinner at the Brooks mansion was a surreal experience for Lily. The formal dining room, with its crystal chandelier and hand-painted wallpaper, seemed to belong to another century. William had returned from his board meeting looking tired but resolute, and the conversation around the table had carefully avoided any mention of security breaches or mysterious text messages. Instead, they discussed Nathan's health, the snowstorm that had passed through, and gentle inquiries about Lily's interests and education. By 11:30, the house had quieted. Lily sat on the edge of her bed, fully dressed in the warm clothes Eleanor had provided, staring at the mysterious text message. Common sense told her to ignore it, to report it to Robert, and let the family's security team handle whatever threat might be lurking outside. But something deeper, an instinct that had kept her alive on the streets, whispered that this might be her only chance to learn the truth about her past, a truth that even the Brooks family might not fully know or be willing to share. The decision wasn't an easy one. In the day and a half she'd been at the estate, she'd come to care about these people, especially Nathan, whose innocent life had somehow become intertwined with her own. The thought of betraying their trust by sneaking out to meet an unknown person made her stomach knot with guilt, but the mention of her father, of Martha's reasons for leaving, was too compelling to ignore. At 11:45, Lily slipped out of her room. The hallway was dim, lit only by small wall sconces that cast a warm glow over the expensive artwork and antique furniture. She moved silently, a skill honed by 2 years of avoiding attention in shelters and on the streets. The security system was sophisticated, but she'd watched carefully when Robert had entered the code earlier, 27418. Muscle memory from her days of academic excellence had burned the number into her brain automatically. The back staircase led down to a service corridor that connected to the kitchen. From there, a door opened onto a stone patio. Lily paused at the keypad beside this door, her heart racing as she punched in the code. A small green light blinked, and the lock disengaged with a soft click. The cold night air hit her like a physical wall as she stepped outside. The snow-covered grounds stretched before her, illuminated by a nearly full moon that cast everything in silver light and deep shadow. The gazebo was visible at the edge of the formal gardens, a white structure that seemed to glow against the darkness of the trees beyond. Lily wrapped her coat more tightly around herself and began to cross the open space, her boots crunching softly in the snow. The night was silent except for the distant sound of ice shifting on the lake and the occasional call of a night bird. Security lights illuminated the main pathways around the house, but they didn't reach as far as the gazebo, which remained in shadow. As she approached, her steps slowed. What if this was a trap? What if the person waiting there meant her harm? She paused, considering turning back, when a figure emerged from the darkness of the gazebo. A woman, slender and wrapped in a dark coat, her face partially obscured by a scarf. "Lily?" the woman called softly. "Thank you for coming." The voice was unfamiliar, with a slight accent Lily couldn't place. She stopped at the foot of the gazebo steps, maintaining a safe distance. "Who are you?" she demanded. "How? Do you know about my father?" The woman descended the steps slowly, keeping her movements deliberate, non-threatening. When she reached the bottom, she unwound the scarf from around her face. Lily gasped. The woman's features were hauntingly familiar, the same high cheekbones, the same curve of the mouth that Lily saw every time she looked in a mirror. "My name is Grace Morgan," the woman said quietly. "I'm your father's sister, your aunt." Lily stared, speechless. The resemblance was undeniable. This woman could easily be a relative. "I have so little time," Grace continued urgently. "The security patrols will be coming around the east side of the property in exactly 7 minutes. We need to talk quickly." "How do you know the security schedule?" Lily asked suspiciously. A tight smile flickered across Grace's face. "Because I helped design it many years ago, before everything went wrong." She pulled something from her pocket, a medallion identical to the one Nathan had been wearing. "Do you recognize this?" Lily nodded slowly. "It's like the one Nathan had, and the one my grandmother kept hidden." "Each Brooks family member receives one," Grace confirmed, "but they're more than family heirlooms. Look closely at the design." She handed the medallion to Lily, who turned it over in her gloved hands. The intricate crest was familiar now, but as she examined it more carefully, she noticed something odd about the pattern of lines and symbols. "It's a key," Grace explained before Lily could ask. "The pattern is a sophisticated encryption key that, when scanned properly, grants access to the Brooks family's most classified projects, including Project Prometheus." Lily looked up sharply. "The project that was stolen before Nathan was kidnapped." Grace's expression darkened. "Not stolen, recovered. By me." She held Lily's gaze steadily. "There are things you need to understand about the Brooks family, Lily. Things your grandmother tried to protect you from." "What things?" Lily asked, a cold feeling spreading through her chest that had nothing to do with the winter air. "Project Prometheus isn't just a defense technology," Grace said, her voice dropping lower. "It's a weapons system that could destabilize entire regions if it falls into the wrong hands, or even if it remains in the hands that created it. Your grandmother discovered the early stages of the project 40 years ago. That's why she left." "And my father?" Lily pressed, desperate to know. "Robert Donovan said he disappeared while investigating corporate espionage." Pain flashed across Grace's features. Daniel wasn't investigating espionage. He was investigating William Brooks himself. She took a deep breath. "Your father discovered that William had continued his father's work on Prometheus in secret, using family resources. That circumvented normal oversight. When Daniel got too close to the truth, he was eliminated. The word hung in the freezing air between them. Eliminated. Lily felt sick. "No," she said, shaking her head. "William wouldn't. He's been kind to me. He wants to make me part of the family." "Of course he does," Grace said bitterly. "You're the last living connection to Martha Brooks, the only person who ever stood up to the family. By bringing you in, he neutralizes any threat you might pose if you ever discovered the truth." "And Nathan?" Lily asked, struggling to make sense of it all. "Why involve an innocent baby in this?" Grace's expression softened slightly. "That wasn't the plan. Nathan was supposed to be safely in the care of trusted allies, while we used his disappearance to access the Brooks mansion and locate the current version of Prometheus. But one of our team panicked when security patterns changed unexpectedly. They left Nathan where they thought he'd be quickly found by regular patrols." Horror washed over Lily. "You kidnapped him? You put him in danger?" "It was never supposed to happen that way," Grace insisted, reaching for Lily's arm. "We were trying to prevent something much worse. Prometheus could cause unimaginable harm in the wrong hands, even in the right ones. We need your help to stop it permanently." Lily pulled away, her mind reeling. "My help? Why would I help people who kidnapped an innocent baby and left him to freeze?" "Because you're Martha's granddaughter," Grace said simply. "Because you have Carter and Morgan blood running through your veins, people who stood up for what's right regardless of the cost." Her expression grew more urgent. "And because you have something no one else has, access to the Brooks estate and William's trust. You want me to spy on them," Lily said flatly. "I want you to help us access the complete Prometheus files so we can expose them publicly," Grace corrected. "Once the world knows what Brooks Industries has been developing, in secret they'll be forced to abandon the project." Lily stepped back, trying to create space to think. Everything she'd learned over the past 2 days was colliding in her mind. William's apparent kindness and desire to make her family, Robert's warnings about danger, and now Grace's accusations about weapons development and her father's fate. "I need proof," she said finally. "About my father, about Prometheus. I can't just take your word for this." Grace nodded as if she'd expected this response. She reached into her coat again and withdrew a small USB drive. "This contains partial files from Project Prometheus that Daniel managed to send out before he disappeared. It also has his personal journals, photographs he took as evidence, and a letter he wrote to you when your mother was pregnant." She held it out. "Everything you need to understand why this matters." Lily took the drive, her hand trembling slightly. "If what you're saying is true, why not go to the authorities? The media?" "We've tried," Grace said grimly. "The Brooks family has connections at every level of government, in every major news organization. Without the complete files as evidence, we're dismissed as conspiracy theorists." She glanced at her watch. "I need to go. The security patrol will be here any minute." "How do I contact you?" Lily asked, still uncertain but unwilling to lose this connection to her father. "You don't," Grace replied. "It's too dangerous. I'll contact you in 3 days." She hesitated, then added softly, "You look so much like him, Lily. Daniel would be proud of the young woman you've become." Before Lily could respond, Grace melted back into the shadows of the trees beyond the gazebo, leaving Lily alone with the medallion, the USB drive, and a mind full of impossible choices. The crunch of boots on snow alerted her to the approaching security patrol. Lily quickly pocketed the items and started walking casually back toward the house, as if she'd simply come out for a moonlight stroll. When the guard spotted her, she waved, trying to appear relaxed despite her racing heart. "Miss Carter," the guard said, sounding surprised, "you shouldn't be out here alone at night." "I couldn't sleep," Lily explained, the lie coming easily. "The moon on the snow was too beautiful to resist." The guard nodded, though he looked skeptical. "Let me escort you back to the house." As they walked in silence, Lily's mind worked furiously. Who should she trust? William and Eleanor had shown her nothing but kindness, had welcomed her into their home and offered her a place in their family. But Grace's words about her father, about Martha's reasons for leaving, planted seeds of doubt that couldn't be easily dismissed. Back in her room, Lily sat at the small desk by the window, turning the USB drive over in her hands. The Brooks family had given her a laptop for schoolwork, a sleek machine that probably cost more than everything she'd owned in her life. With trembling fingers, she inserted the drive and opened the files. For the next 2 hours, she read through Daniel Morgan's journals, examined his photographs of classified documents, and watched video recordings of secret meetings. The evidence was compelling and disturbing. Project Prometheus appeared to be an autonomous weapons system with capabilities far beyond anything publicly acknowledged by any government or corporation. Most haunting of all was the letter addressed to her, written by a father who suspected he might not live to see his child born. "My dearest child, if you're reading this, then my fears were justified, and I haven't been there to watch you grow. I'm sorry for that, sorrier than you can imagine. I hope your mother has told you stories about me, about how much I loved you both, even before you arrived in this world. I'm leaving this record because the truth matters, and because someone needs to know what I've discovered. The Brooks family has created something dangerous, something that crosses ethical and legal boundaries. I believed I could stop it from within, but I've realized too late that this system is too entrenched, too protected by power and wealth. If something happens to me, know that I faced it without regret, because I was fighting for a world where you could grow up safe. Whatever choices you make in your life, whatever path you follow, I hope you'll remember that some things are worth standing up for, no matter the cost. With all my love, your father, Daniel Morgan." Tears blurred Lily's vision as she read the words again and again. The father she'd never known had written to her, had thought of her, had possibly died trying to protect a future he would never see. A soft knock at her door startled her out of her emotional haze. She quickly closed the laptop, hiding the USB drive under her pillow before calling, "Come in." The door opened to reveal William, still dressed despite the late hour, his expression concerned. "I saw your light on. Is everything all right?" Lily nodded, hoping her face didn't betray her inner turmoil. "Just couldn't sleep, a lot to process." William entered the room, taking a seat in the armchair by the fireplace. "I can imagine. Finding out you're connected to all this after the life you've led." He shook his head. "I want you to know, Lily, that I meant what I said earlier. This is your home now if you want it to be." Lily studied his face, searching for signs of the calculating manipulator Grace had described. All she could see was genuine concern and something that looked like hope. "Why?" she asked suddenly. "Why would you want to bring a stranger into your family?" William looked surprised by the directness of the question. "You're not a stranger, Lily. You're Martha's granddaughter. And beyond that," he paused, choosing his words carefully, "you showed extraordinary courage and compassion when you saved Nathan. Those are qualities I value more than any wealth or status." "Did you know my father?" Lily asked, watching closely for his reaction. A flicker of something, discomfort, grief, crossed William's features. "Daniel Morgan?" "Not well. He worked for Robert primarily. I knew he was involved with your mother briefly." He hesitated. "He disappeared before you were born, as I understand it." "What happened to him?" Lily pressed. William's expression grew more guarded. "I don't know the details. There was an investigation, but nothing conclusive was ever found. It was a difficult time for the company. We were dealing with several security issues." Not a direct lie, Lily noted, but certainly not the full truth that Grace had outlined. The question was, which version should she believe? "I have the guardianship papers," William continued, clearly eager to change the subject. "If you're comfortable with the idea, we could file them tomorrow. It would give you legal protection, access to family resources, education, everything. That should have been yours from the beginning." The offer hung in the air between them, tempting and terrifying in equal measure. To have a home, a family, security after years of struggling alone, it was everything Lily had dreamed of during cold nights in her railway car. But at what cost? And with what hidden strings attached? "I need time," she said finally. To think about it. William nodded, his expression understanding. Of course, this is a big decision. He rose to leave, then paused at the door. Lily, I want you to know that whatever you decide, you're safe here. I promise you that. After he left, Lily sat motionless, staring at the closed door. The promise of safety felt genuine, but Grace's warnings echoed in her mind. If William Brooks was capable of eliminating her father to protect a dangerous secret, what else might he do? And if he was innocent of those accusations, then who was truly behind the web of deceit surrounding Nathan's kidnapping and her sudden inclusion in this world of privilege? Outside her window, the moon cast long shadows across the snow-covered grounds of the Brooks estate. Somewhere beyond those manicured gardens and security patrols, Grace Morgan waited for her decision. And somewhere in this house, perhaps even in the room where Nathan now slept peacefully, lay secrets that had cost her father his life and her grandmother her family. As dawn approached, Lily made a decision. She would neither fully trust William nor completely believe Grace. Instead, she would find her own path to the truth, a truth that seemed to be hidden in the intricate pattern of a family medallion and the encrypted files of a project named for a titan who stole fire from the gods and gave it to humanity, regardless of the consequences. The next morning dawned bright and clear, the sunlight reflecting off the snow with blinding intensity. Lily had barely slept, her mind churning with conflicting loyalties and unanswered questions. The USB drive from Grace remained hidden under her mattress, its contents casting shadows over the warmth and welcome she'd found in the Brooks household. At breakfast, Lily found herself studying William with new eyes, searching for signs of the calculating figure Grace had described. He sat at the head of the table, calmly reviewing documents while occasionally smiling at Nathan, who was secured in a high-tech infant seat beside Eleanor. The scene was so perfectly domestic, so normal, that Lily found it difficult to reconcile with the accusations of weapons development and her father's alleged fate. "Did you sleep well?" Eleanor asked, passing Lily a plate of fresh fruit. "Well enough," Lily lied, accepting the plate with a polite smile. "Thank you." William looked up from his papers. "I've arranged for a tutor to come by this afternoon if you're interested, just to assess where you are academically and what you might need to catch up on." The thoughtfulness of the gesture made Lily's chest tighten with guilt. "That would be great, thank you." "And I thought perhaps tomorrow we might visit some schools," Eleanor added. "There's Lakeside Prep, which has an excellent STEM program, or the Archer Academy, if you're more interested in humanities." They were planning her future, building a life for her within their world, while she harbored secrets that could potentially destroy them. The weight of it all made Lily's appetite vanish. "Is everything all right?" William asked, noticing her discomfort. Lily forced a smile. "Just overwhelmed by all the options, I guess. I haven't thought about school in a while." "Of course," Eleanor said sympathetically. "We don't mean to rush you. Everything at your own pace." After breakfast, Lily found herself drawn to the library, again, searching for more information about her grandmother and the family she'd abandoned. The Brooks family archives were extensive, with photo albums, diaries, and newspaper clippings carefully preserved in leather-bound volumes. She was examining a photograph of a young Martha Brooks, striking in her resemblance to Lily herself, when Robert Donovan entered the room. "Finding answers?" he asked, his voice making her jump. "Trying to," Lily admitted, closing the album guiltily. Robert approached, taking a seat in the leather chair opposite her. "I knew your grandmother quite well," he said, his expression thoughtful. "We were close before she left." Something in his tone caught Lily's attention. "How close?" A sad smile touched Robert's lips. "We were engaged, briefly. Martha was extraordinary, brilliant, fearless, committed to her principles above all else." This was unexpected information, a personal connection between Robert and her grandmother that went beyond professional respect. "What happened?" "The family rift happened," Robert said simply. "Martha discovered some of old Mr. Brooks's more questionable business activities and confronted him publicly. When the family closed ranks, she expected me to stand with her." His expression grew distant. I didn't. I chose loyalty to the company, to my position. She never forgave me for that. And you've been with the family ever since, Lily observed. Robert nodded. Protecting the Brooks family became my life's work, especially after what happened with your father. Lily's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? Robert studied her face carefully. Daniel Morgan was one of my best operatives. His disappearance has haunted me for 16 years. He leaned forward slightly. Lily, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Did someone contact you last night? The direct question caught her off guard. What? The exterior door alarm was temporarily disabled at 11:47 p.m., Robert said, his eyes never leaving her face. And a security camera caught you walking toward the gazebo shortly after. Lily's mind raced. She'd been so careful, or so she thought. I couldn't sleep, she said, falling back on the same excuse she'd given the guard. I needed some air. And the woman you met at the gazebo, Robert pressed. The one who gave you something before disappearing into the woods? Cold dread washed over her. They'd been watched the entire time. I don't know what you're talking about, she lied, her voice less steady than she would have liked. Robert sighed, his expression more disappointed than angry. Lily, we have thermal imaging cameras covering the entire property. I know someone approached you. He paused, his tone softening. Was it Grace Morgan? The name hit Lily like a physical blow. Robert knew about Grace, knew she existed, knew she might contact Lily. How do you... Grace Morgan has been trying to sabotage Brooks Industries for years, Robert explained. She blames us for her brother's disappearance. She's part of a radical group that opposes defense technology development on principle. And is that what Project Prometheus is? Lily challenged, abandoning pretense. Defense technology. Robert's expression hardened slightly. Project Prometheus is classified, Lily. I can't discuss its details with you or anyone without proper clearance. My father had clearance, Lily said, watching his reaction closely, and he disappeared because of what he found. Is that what Grace told you? Robert asked quietly. That William had Daniel eliminated to protect company secrets? When Lily didn't respond, Robert shook his head sadly. She's manipulating you, Lily, using your understandable desire to know about your father to turn you against the only family you have left. Then tell me what really happened to him, Lily demanded. Robert was silent for a long moment, seeming to wrestle with some inner conflict. Finally, he reached into his jacket and withdrew a small leather wallet. From it, he produced a worn photograph, two young men in military uniform, arms around each other's shoulders, grinning at the camera. Daniel and I served together before I joined Brooks Security, he explained, handing her the photo. He was like a brother to me. When he disappeared, I launched the most thorough investigation of my career. Robert's voice grew quieter. The evidence pointed to industrial espionage gone wrong. Daniel had infiltrated a group that was targeting Brooks Industries, the same group Grace later joined. We believe he was discovered and silenced by his own people when he tried to warn us about their plans. Lily stared at the photograph, at her father's young, smiling face. You think Grace's group killed him? I think. Grace believes what she's telling you, Robert said carefully. She idolized her brother. The idea that he might have been betrayed by his own associates was too painful for her to accept. It was easier to blame William, to channel her grief into a crusade against Brooks Industries. The contradiction between Grace's version of events and Robert's made Lily's head spin. Both sounded plausible, both explained the facts she knew, but both couldn't be true. Why should I believe you? She asked finally. You shouldn't necessarily, Robert replied, surprising her. You should verify everything for yourself, but be careful about the sources you trust, Lily. Grace and her group are willing to use any means to achieve their ends, including kidnapping an innocent baby and using you as a pawn in their game. The reminder of Nathan's ordeal struck Lily like a physical blow. Whatever the truth about Project Prometheus, about her father's fate, the fact remained that Grace's group had endangered a helpless child. What will happen to me now? Lily asked quietly. Now that you know I met with her? That depends on you, Robert said, his expression serious but not unkind. "If you tell me everything, what Grace said, what she gave you, what she asked you to do, I can help protect you from the consequences of her manipulation." The offer was tempting. Robert's version of events made sense, and his connection to both her grandmother and father gave his words weight. Yet something held her back. An instinct that told her not to reveal everything. Not yet. She said, "My father discovered something about Project Prometheus," Lily said finally, offering a partial truth. "Something dangerous enough that it cost him his life. She wanted me to help her expose it." "And did she give you anything? A way to contact her, perhaps?" Lily shook her head, the lie coming more easily now. "No. She said she'd contact me again, but didn't say when or how." Robert studied her face, and Lily had the uncomfortable feeling he could see right through her deception. "Lily, I understand your desire to know about your father, to connect with his memory, his legacy, but Grace Morgan is not the path to that connection. She's using your natural curiosity and your grief to manipulate you into helping her damage. The Brooks family, the very family that took you in, that wants to give you the home and opportunities you deserve." His words hit uncomfortably close to home, echoing Lily's own doubts. "I just want the truth," she said softly. "Then let me help you find it," Robert offered. "Not Grace's version, not even mine, but the objective truth, whatever that might." "Faye?" Before Lily could respond, the library door opened and William entered, his expression concerned. "Robert, is everything all right?" Robert stood, his professional demeanor sliding back into place. "Just sharing some family history with Lily. She's naturally curious about her connections here." William nodded, though his eyes betrayed a hint of suspicion as they moved between Robert and Lily. "Of course." He turned to Lily with a warm smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "The tutor will be here in an hour. I thought you might want some time to prepare." "Thank you," Lily said, rising from her chair. "I'll go get ready." As she left the library, she could feel both men watching her, their gazes heavy with unspoken questions and concerns. In the hallway, she paused, breathing deeply to steady herself. The conversation with Robert had left her more confused than ever. His explanation about her father made sense, but it directly contradicted Grace's version of events. One of them was lying, or perhaps both were telling partial truths shaped by their own biases and beliefs. She needed more information, more evidence before she could decide whom to trust, and she needed to examine the contents of Grace's USB, drive more carefully, away from the watchful eyes of Brooks' security. In her room, Lily retrieved the drive from its hiding place and slipped it into the pocket of her jeans. Whatever she decided, she needed to keep this piece of her father's legacy close. The afternoon passed in a blur of academic assessments with a patient, encouraging tutor who seemed impressed by how much Lily had managed to learn despite her interrupted education. By dinner time, she had a personalized study plan and promises of regular sessions to help her catch up to her peers. At the dinner table, conversation flowed around her. William discussing company matters, Eleanor detailing plans for Nathan's delayed christening ceremony, and occasional questions directed at Lily about her session with the tutor. She answered politely, participated in the discussion, but felt increasingly like an actress playing a role rather than a true member of this family circle. After dinner, William invited her to his study, a wood-paneled room filled with books, artifacts from his travels and family photographs. On his desk sat the guardianship papers, ready for her signature. "No pressure," he assured her, noticing her gaze fixed on the documents. "These are here whenever you're ready. If you're ready." Lily nodded, moving to examine a framed photograph on the wall. William as a younger man standing beside an older gentleman with the same strong jawline and penetrating eyes. "Is this your father?" "Yes," William confirmed, his expression complex. Joseph Brooks, a complicated man, brilliant but flawed. His vision built this company, but his methods sometimes crossed lines that shouldn't be crossed. The candid admission surprised her. "Like the defense contracts that made my grandmother leave?" William nodded, seemingly untroubled by her directness. Martha was right to challenge him on those. She saw moral compromises that the rest of us were too close to recognize. He sighed. I've spent much of my career trying to correct my father's ethical lapses while preserving his technological innovations, including Project Prometheus, Lily asked, watching his reaction closely. Something flickered in William's eyes, surprise perhaps, or wariness. You've been talking to Robert, I see. He mentioned it, Lily acknowledged, said it was classified. It is, William confirmed, but since you've heard the name. He paused, seeming to consider how much to share. Project Prometheus began. As my father's attempt to create an autonomous defense system that could predict and neutralize threats before they materialized. The ethical implications were troubling. And you continued it, Lily said, making it a statement rather than a question. William's gaze was steady. I redirected it, away from offensive capabilities toward purely defensive applications, protection rather than preemption. He moved to stand beside her, looking at the photograph of his father. The world is dangerous, Lily. The technology exists. If we don't develop it responsibly, others will develop it without ethical constraints. It was a reasonable argument, one that made Lily question Grace's black-and-white characterization of the Brooks family as villains. Yet questions remained. And my father, did he work on Prometheus? William tensed, almost imperceptibly. Daniel. Morgan was investigating security breaches related to the project. He was a talented operative who took risks. He turned to face her directly. His disappearance was a tragedy, Lily, one that I've always regretted. But you don't know what happened to him, Lily pressed. No, William admitted. Robert conducted an exhaustive investigation, but we never found definitive answers. He hesitated, then added, I know how important this is to you. If you decide to become part of this family, I promise you access to everything we know about your father, all the files, all the evidence we gathered, no secrets. The offer was tempting, a chance to see the official investigation, to compare it with Grace's claims and the evidence on the USB drive. But it came with strings attached, acceptance of the guardianship, formal inclusion in the Brooks family. I need more time, Lily said finally. William nodded, his expression understanding. Of course. This is a life-changing decision. He moved back to his desk, gathering some papers. In the meantime, Eleanor and I were hoping you might join us tomorrow for Nathan's pediatrician appointment. He seems to have formed a special bond with you, and your presence might make the experience less stressful for him. The request seemed innocent enough, but Lily wondered if there was more to it, a way to keep her close, under observation, away from potential contact with Grace. I'd be happy to, she said nonetheless, genuinely fond of the baby whose discovery had changed her life so dramatically. Later that night, alone in her room, Lily sat cross-legged on the bed, turning the medallion Grace had given her over in her hands. The intricate pattern that served as an encryption key seemed to mock her with its complexity, much like the situation she found herself in. William Brooks had offered her a home, an education, a family, everything she'd longed for during her years of struggle and solitude. His explanation of Project Prometheus sounded reasonable, his regret about her father's fate genuine. Robert's account of Daniel Morgan's disappearance painted Grace and her group as the true villains, willing to sacrifice even an innocent baby for their cause. Yet Grace had her father's journals, his own words describing his fears about the Brooks family's secret project. She had photographs, documents, evidence that couldn't be easily dismissed. Whom should she trust? The family that had welcomed her with open arms but might be hiding dangerous secrets? Or the woman who claimed to be her aunt but had been involved in a plot that endangered a baby's life? As midnight approached, Lily came to a decision. She would neither commit fully to the Brooks family nor agree to help Grace's group. Instead, she would pursue her own investigation, using the resources and access William had offered, while maintaining the connection to Grace and the evidence she provided. She would walk the razor's edge between these opposing forces, searching for the truth about her father's fate and the project that might have caused it. And she would protect Nathan, the innocent child who had brought her into this web of secrets and lies. no matter the cost. Outside her window, a security camera silently tracked the movements of the guards patrolling the perimeter of the Brooks estate. Beyond the fence, beyond the reach of those cameras, someone else watched, patient, determined, waiting for Lily to make her choice. But Lily had already chosen her path, not William's, not Grace's, but her own. A path toward truth, whatever it might be, whatever it might cost. Her. 3 days passed in a strange new routine. Lily attended tutoring sessions in the mornings, spent afternoons with Eleanor and Nathan, and explored the Brooks family archives in the evenings, searching for clues about her grandmother's departure and her father's connection to the family. William was often absent, dealing with the fallout from the security breach at his company, but when present he was unfailingly kind and patient, never pressing Lily about the guardianship papers that remained unsigned on his desk. Robert Donovan maintained a watchful presence, his eyes following Lily when she moved through the house, his questions casual but probing. He never directly mentioned Grace again, but the unspoken awareness of that midnight meeting hung between them. Grace had not attempted to contact Lily since their encounter at the gazebo. The USB drive remained hidden, its contents reviewed, late at night, when Lily was certain no one would interrupt her. The more she examined her father's journals and the technical documents he had gathered, the more conflicted she felt about Project Prometheus and the Brooks family's true intentions. On the morning of the 4th day, William announced at breakfast that he needed to attend an emergency meeting at Brooks Industries headquarters. "There's been another security incident," he explained, his expression grave. "Nothing directly related to Prometheus, but concerning nonetheless. I may be gone. Overnight." "Should we be worried?" Eleanor asked, her hand protectively covering Nathan's where he sat in his high chair. "No," William assured her, though Lily noticed the tension in his shoulders. "Robert has increased security here, and I've arranged for additional plainclothes personnel to patrol the perimeter. It's just a precaution." After William left, the house fell into an uneasy quiet. Eleanor suggested they take Nathan for a walk in the gardens, the winter air crisp but not unbearably cold. As they strolled along the cleared pathways, Nathan, bundled in a state-of-the-art stroller, Eleanor seemed distracted, her usual animated conversation replaced by long silences. "Is everything okay?" Lily finally asked as they paused by the frozen fountain. Eleanor sighed, her breath forming a small cloud in the cold air. "Just worried about William. These security issues have been escalating since Nathan's kidnapping." She glanced at Lily. "He doesn't tell me everything, trying to protect me, I suppose, but I know when he's truly concerned." Lily nodded, understanding all too well the weight of secrets kept in the name of protection. "The security seems pretty tight here." "Yes," Eleanor agreed, though she didn't sound entirely convinced. "Robert is very thorough." She adjusted Nathan's blankets, then added in a more hesitant tone, "Lily, there's something I've been meaning to ask you." "What is it?" Eleanor's expression was difficult to read, part curiosity, part apprehension. "When you found Nathan, was there anything else with him, besides the medallion?" The question seemed odd, unexpected. "No," Lily replied, watching Eleanor's face carefully. "Just the blanket he was wrapped in and the medallion." "Why?" "Just wondering," Eleanor said, too quickly to be convincing. "Sometimes, in cases like this, the kidnappers leave a message, a ransom demand, something to indicate their motives." But Lily had spent enough time on the streets to recognize when someone wasn't being entirely truthful. "Eleanor, what are you really asking about?" Flash of something, guilt, fear, crossed Eleanor's face before she composed herself. "It's nothing important, just part of the police investigation." Before Lily could press further, Robert appeared on the path ahead, his expression serious. "Mrs. Brooks, there's a call for you from Mr. Brooks. He says it's urgent." Eleanor nodded, immediately turning the stroller around. "Lily, would you mind watching Nathan for a few minutes? I'll take the call in William's study." "Of course," Lily agreed, taking control of the stroller. As Eleanor hurried back toward the house, Robert following closely behind. Left alone with Nathan, Lily continued their walk, circling the fountain once more before heading toward the gazebo where she had met Grace. The baby was awake but quiet, his curious eyes taking in the winter landscape around them. "What's going on, little guy?" Lily murmured, crouching down to adjust his blankets. "What secrets are swirling around you that I don't understand yet?" Nathan reached up with a mittened hand, grasping at a strand of Lily's hair that had escaped her wool hat. The innocent gesture made her heart ache with protectiveness and confusion. Whatever games the adults were playing, whatever truths they were hiding, this child deserved better than to be caught in the middle. As she straightened, a movement at the edge of the property caught her eye, a figure slipping between the trees beyond the security fence. Instinctively, Lily angled the stroller away, positioning herself between Nathan and the potential threat. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, a text message from an unknown number. "Lab 7, sub-basement, tonight, 11:30, alone." Lily's pulse quickened. Grace, presumably. But what was Lab 7 and how was she supposed to access a sub-basement she didn't even know existed? Before she could consider further, Eleanor reappeared on the path, her face pale, her movements hurried. "Lily, there you are. We need to go inside immediately." "What's wrong?" Lily asked, alarmed by Eleanor's obvious distress. "Security protocol," Eleanor explained tersely, taking control of the stroller. "Williams received a specific threat against the family. Robert wants everyone inside until additional security arrives." As they rushed back to the house, Lily noticed more guards appearing around the perimeter, their black uniforms stark against the snow. Inside, the atmosphere had transformed. Staff moved quickly, closing shutters, checking locks, communicating via earpieces in hushed, urgent tones. Robert met them in the foyer, his expression grim. "Mrs. Brooks, please take Nathan to the safe room. Miss Carter, you'll go with them." "What's happening?" Lily demanded, confused by the sudden escalation. "We've received credible information about an imminent breach attempt," Robert explained, his voice clipped and professional. "A coordinated attack on both the corporate headquarters and potentially this property." "Grace's group?" Lily asked before she could stop herself. Robert's gaze sharpened. "That's our working assumption, yes. Now please, go with Mrs. Brooks." Eleanor led Lily through the house to a part she hadn't seen before, a corridor off the kitchen that ended in what appeared to be a pantry. Eleanor pressed her palm against a hidden scanner, and a section of the wall slid open, revealing a steel door with a keypad. "This is our safe room," Eleanor explained as she entered a complex code. "Reinforced walls, independent air supply, communications, enough provisions for several days if necessary." The door opened to reveal a space that looked more like a comfortable apartment than a bunker: sofas, a kitchenette, entertainment systems, and several doors leading to what Lily assumed were bedrooms and bathrooms. "This seems excessive," Lily commented as the door sealed behind them with a pneumatic hiss. Eleanor managed a tight smile as she settled Nathan in a portable crib that had already been prepared. "William believes in being prepared for any contingency. After what happened with Nathan—" She didn't finish the sentence, but Lily understood. The kidnapping had shaken the family's sense of security to its core. Hours passed in tense waiting. Eleanor received periodic updates from Robert via a secure communication system, reporting that security was in place, that William had been moved to a safe location at the corporate headquarters, that no breach had yet been attempted. As evening fell, Nathan grew fussy, refusing his bottle and crying intermittently. Nothing Eleanor did seemed to soothe him. "Let me try," Lily offered, taking the baby into her arms. To both their surprise, Nathan quieted almost immediately, his cries fading to soft hiccups as he nestled against Lily's chest. "He trusts you," Eleanor observed, her expression a mixture of gratitude and something more complex. "Recognizes you? As his savior, perhaps." Lily rocked Nathan gently, humming a tune her grandmother had once sung to her. "I just happened to be in the right place at the right time." "Perhaps," Eleanor said, her voice thoughtful. "Or perhaps it was something more than coincidence." She hesitated, then added, "Lily, there's something you should know about Nathan." Before she could continue, the communication system chimed, Robert's voice came through, tense but controlled. "Mrs. Brooks, we've detected multiple intruders on the property. Security is engaging. Please remain in the safe room until further notice." Eleanor's face drained of color. "Understood," she replied, her voice remarkably steady despite her obvious fear. She turned to Lily, taking Nathan back into her arms. "We should move to the inner chamber just as a precaution." She led Lily through one of the doors, into a smaller room with no windows, even more secure than the main safe room. As they settled in, Eleanor cradling Nathan protectively, Lily checked her phone, 10:45 p.m. The mysterious message had directed her to Lab 7 at 11:30. Was this security breach related? Was it a distraction designed to give her an opportunity to slip away? "Eleanor," Lily began hesitantly, "what were you about to tell me? About Nathan?" Eleanor looked down at the baby in her arms, her expression conflicted. After a long moment, she seemed to come to a decision. "Nathan isn't just special to us because he's our son, Lily. He's special because of what he represents, the future of Project Prometheus." Lily stared, not comprehending. "What do you mean?" "Project Prometheus isn't just a weapons system," Eleanor explained, her voice dropping to near a whisper, despite their isolation. "That's part of it, yes, but the core technology, what William's father started and what William perfected, is about human evolution, enhanced cognitive capabilities, accelerated learning, heightened perception." "You're saying Nathan is enhanced?" Lily asked, struggling to process this revelation. "The first successful application of the Prometheus protocol in utero," Eleanor confirmed, gazing down at her son with a mixture of pride and apprehension. "He appears normal now, but as he develops, his capabilities will far exceed those of other children. The implications were staggering. That's why he was targeted." Eleanor nodded. Grace Morgan's group somehow learned about this aspect of the project. They didn't just want to expose Prometheus as a weapons system. They wanted to study Nathan, to prove that we had crossed ethical boundaries by applying experimental technology to an unborn child. "And William approved this?" Lily asked, unable to keep the horror from her voice. "William wanted a better future for humanity," Eleanor said defensively. "A child who could lead the way, show what humans might become with the right advantages." She met Lily's gaze directly. "Your father understood this vision, Lily. He was part of the early Prometheus team before he disappeared." This contradicted everything Grace had told her, everything in Daniel Morgan's journals. "My father opposed the project," Lily insisted. "He thought it was dangerous, unethical." "Is that what Grace told you?" Eleanor asked, her voice suddenly sharper. "Daniel Morgan helped develop the cognitive enhancement protocols that we eventually used with Nathan. He was a true believer in Prometheus, right up until Grace poisoned his mind against it." Lily's world tilted yet again, another version of her father's story challenging what she thought she knew. "I don't understand." "Grace and Daniel were close," Eleanor explained. "When she joined one of these radical anti-technology groups, she tried to convince him that Prometheus was dangerous. When he wouldn't listen, when he remained committed to the project," she hesitated, "we believe she arranged his disappearance to prevent him from completing his work." The accusation struck Lily like a physical blow. "You think Grace had her own brother eliminated?" "We think she believed she was saving him from himself," Eleanor clarified, "removing him from a project she considered evil by any means necessary." A thunderous crash from somewhere in the house interrupted their conversation. The lights flickered, and the communication system emitted a burst of static before going silent. "They're inside," Eleanor whispered, clutching Nathan tighter. "How is that possible? This house has the best security system in the country." Lily's mind raced. The text message, the timing of the breach, the revelations about Nathan and Prometheus, it all felt connected, orchestrated. "Eleanor, is there another way out of this room, besides the main safe room?" "Yes," Eleanor confirmed, moving to what looked like a solid wall. "An emergency exit that leads to the garage. There's a vehicle always ready, keys in the ignition. We should go," Lily urged, "now before they find us." Eleanor hesitated. Robert said to stay put. Robert might not be in control of the situation anymore, Lily countered, thinking of the silenced communication system. We need to get Nathan somewhere safe. After a moment's indecision, Eleanor nodded. She pressed her palm against a hidden panel, and a section of the wall slid open, revealing a narrow corridor lit by emergency lights. This way. They moved quickly through the passage, Eleanor carrying Nathan, Lily close behind. The corridor sloped upward, eventually ending at another reinforced door with a keypad. This leads directly into the garage, Eleanor explained as she entered a code. The car is... The door slid open to reveal not the expected garage but a laboratory, sleek and modern, filled with advanced equipment and glowing monitors. Standing in the center of the room was Grace Morgan, flanked by two men in tactical gear. Right on time, Grace said, her expression grim but satisfied. I was beginning to think you wouldn't make it, Lily. Eleanor pulled Nathan closer to her chest, positioning herself slightly in front of Lily. How did you get in here? This is a secure facility. We had help, Grace replied simply. She gestured to one of the monitors, which displayed a security feed of the main house. Robert Donovan could be seen directing guards, apparently unaware that the safe room had been breached. Your evacuation route was rerouted. A simple enough hack with the right access codes. What do you want? Lily demanded, stepping forward despite Eleanor's attempt to keep her back. The truth, Grace said. The whole truth about Project Prometheus, about what they did to Nathan, about what happened to Daniel. She fixed Lily with an intense gaze. Did Eleanor tell you? About Nathan's enhancement? About your father's real role in all this? She told me a very different story than you did, Lily acknowledged. She said my father supported Prometheus, that you turned against him when he wouldn't abandon the project. Grace laughed, a harsh sound without humor. Of course she did. They've been spinning that narrative for years. She moved to one of the computer terminals, typing rapidly. But unlike them, I can prove what really happened. The largest monitor in the room flickered to life, displaying video footage dated 16 years earlier. A younger William Brooks sat at a conference table with several scientists and security personnel, including a man Lily recognized from photographs as her father. The Prometheus protocol is ready for human trials, William was saying. The cognitive enhancement aspects have been thoroughly tested in simulations. Simulations aren't enough, Daniel Morgan countered, his voice sending a chill through Lily the first time she'd ever heard her father speak. We need more safety protocols, more ethical oversight. This goes beyond weapon systems now. We're talking about altering human development. William's expression in the video was dismissive. The oversight committees will delay us by years, possibly decades. Our competitors won't hesitate. We need to move forward now. Not at the cost of safety, Daniel insisted. Not at the cost of unforeseen consequences that could affect generations. The video jumped to another meeting, this one more heated. Daniel was standing, his expression furious. I won't be part of this anymore. You've crossed a line, William. Using the protocol on unborn children without proper testing, without consent, it's unconscionable. The children of Brooks Industries executives with their full knowledge and consent, William corrected coldly. Including my own child when the time comes. We believe in this technology enough to use it on our families first. I'm going public, Daniel declared. The world needs to know what you're doing here. That would be unwise, William replied, his voice dangerously soft. Remember your security clearance, Daniel. Remember the consequences of breaking it. The video ended, freezing on Daniel's defiant expression. 2 days after that meeting, my brother disappeared, Grace said into the silence that followed. His apartment was cleaned out, his research destroyed. Brooks Industries claimed he had resigned and left the country. She turned to Eleanor. But he left something behind, something they never found. Eleanor's face had gone pale, her arms visibly tightening around Nathan. What are you talking about? Grace gestured to one of her companions, who stepped forward with a small device that looked like a medical scanner. May I? She asked, reaching toward Nathan. No! Eleanor recoiled, turning to shield the baby. It won't harm him, Grace assured her. It's just a scanner, to confirm what I already suspect. Lily moved between them. "What are you looking for?" "The why?" "Real reason Nathan was taken," Grace explained. "Not to study him, not to prove anything about Prometheus. He was taken because of what Daniel hid 16 years ago, something that could bring down the entire project." "Which is what exactly?" Lily demanded, growing impatient with the cryptic explanations. "A kill switch," Grace said simply. "A code that could permanently disable the Prometheus system, including the enhancements in any subject who received them." She looked directly at Eleanor. "Daniel created it as a safeguard, in case the technology ever escaped ethical controls, and when he realized what William planned to do, he made sure the kill switch would be impossible to find or disable." "That's absurd," Eleanor scoffed. "We would have found any such code years ago." "Not if it wasn't in your systems," Grace countered. "Not if it was hidden somewhere you'd never think to look." She turned to Lily. "Daniel knew he was in danger. He knew they might come for him before he could expose the truth. So he encoded the kill switch into his own DNA, a genetic sequence that would appear natural but could be translated into a deactivation code." The implications dawned on Lily with stunning clarity. "And I carry his DNA." "Yes," Grace confirmed, "but extracting and decoding it would be complex, time-consuming, obvious. Daniel needed a more elegant solution." She looked at Nathan. He needed someone within the Brooks family itself to carry the key. Someone who would have access to Prometheus from the inside. Eleanor's expression transformed from confusion to horrified understanding. "Caroline," she whispered, "Daniel's girlfriend, Lily's mother." "Who worked as a lab assistant at Brooks Industries," Grace added, "with access to the genetic material being used in the earliest Prometheus trials." "She altered the samples," Eleanor realized aloud, "added Daniel's encoded sequence. And those altered samples became the foundation for all subsequent Prometheus protocols," Grace confirmed, "including the ones used on Nathan." Lily struggled to process the magnitude of what she was hearing. "So Nathan carries my father's kill switch in his DNA." "We believe so," Grace said. "We need to confirm it with a scan, then extract the code. Once we have it, we can permanently disable Prometheus, all versions of it, everywhere it's been implemented." "Including Nathan's enhancements," Eleanor interjected, her voice breaking. "You'd be taking away what makes him special." "I'd be restoring him to what nature intended," Grace corrected, "before William and his scientists played God with his development." A new voice joined the conversation. William's, hard and cold. "That's not your decision to make, Grace." All heads turned to see William Brooks standing in the doorway, Robert Donovan beside him, both men holding weapons pointed at Grace and her companions. "Your security breach at corporate headquarters was clever," William acknowledged, "but not clever enough to keep me from recognizing a diversion when I see one." Grace's men reached for their own weapons, but Robert was faster. "Don't," he warned. "There are a dozen armed guards right behind us. This ends now." A tense standoff ensued, the air thick with unspoken threats and calculations. Lily found herself in the center, physically and figuratively caught between these opposing forces. "Lily," William said, his voice softer now, "take Nathan from Eleanor and come here, please." "Don't," Grace countered. "Think about what you've learned, about your father, about what they did to Nathan, about what they might do to you." Lily looked between them. William, who had offered her a home, a family, an identity, and Grace, who had given her a connection to the father she'd never known. Both claimed to want what was best for Nathan. Both believed their cause was just. But as Lily looked at Nathan, at his innocent face untouched by the adult machinations swirling around him, she made her decision. "This ends now," she declared, her voice stronger than she expected. "All of it." Moving deliberately, she approached Eleanor, who reluctantly let her take Nathan. Cradling the baby against her chest, Lily turned to face both William and Grace. "Nathan deserves better than to be a pawn in your ideological war," she said. "He deserves to grow up safe, loved, and free to become whoever he's meant to be, enhanced or not." "That's what I want too," William insisted. "Is it?" Lily challenged. "Or do you want him to be your legacy? Your proof that Prometheus works regardless of the ethical costs?" William's expression hardened. "You don't understand what's at stake." "I understand perfectly," Lily countered. "My father understood too. That's why he created the kill switch. Not to destroy your work, but to ensure it couldn't be misused." She turned to Grace. "And you. You claim to want to protect people from dangerous technology, but you kidnapped an innocent baby to further your cause. You left him to die in the cold." "That was never the plan," Grace protested. "But it happened," Lily said firmly. "And it shows that you're just as willing to sacrifice individuals for your greater cause as William is." She looked down at Nathan, who had fallen asleep in her arms, oblivious to the tension around him. In that moment, Lily knew what she had to do. "I'm taking Nathan," she announced, "away from all of you until you can agree on a solution that puts his welfare first." "That's not an option," William said, his weapon still trained on Grace. "It's the only option," Lily insisted. "Unless you want to risk harming your son in a firefight." She met William's gaze steadily. "I saved him once. Let me save him again. From all of you." A tense silence followed her declaration. Eleanor was the first to speak, her voice trembling, but determined. "She's right, William," she said, moving to stand beside Lily. "This has gone too far. We created Prometheus to protect humanity, to advance it, not to tear families apart, not to endanger children." William's resolve visibly wavered as he looked at his wife and son. "What are you suggesting?" "A compromise," Eleanor said. "Grace's team scans Nathan, confirms whether the kill switch exists. If it does, we work together to extract the code, not to use it immediately, but to hold it as the safeguard Daniel intended. A check on Prometheus's power, ensuring it remains within ethical boundaries." "And Nathan?" Grace asked, lowering her weapon slightly. "Remains untouched," Eleanor insisted. "He develops naturally, enhanced or not. When he's old enough to understand, he can decide for himself whether to maintain his enhancements or deactivate them." William looked torn, the conflicting imperatives of his ambition and his love for his son playing across his face. "And Brooks Industries? Prometheus?" "Continues under strict ethical oversight," Eleanor proposed, "with representatives from both sides, monitoring its development and application." For a long moment no one spoke. The fate of Nathan, of Prometheus, of Lily's place in this complex web of relationships hung in the balance. Finally, William lowered his weapon. "For Nathan," he said softly. "For my son." Grace followed suit, signaling her men to stand down. "For Daniel," she said, "for what he tried to protect." As the tension in the room gradually dissipated, Lily looked down at the sleeping baby in her arms, the innocent catalyst who had brought her from a freezing railway car to this moment of fragile reconciliation. Whatever happened next, whatever secrets still remained to be uncovered, one truth stood clear. She had found her place, her purpose, her family. Not in wealth or privilege, not in ideology or revenge, but in the simple, powerful act of protection, of standing between an innocent and harm's way, of choosing love over fear, compassion over power, truth over comfort. In saving Nathan, Lily had found herself, and in that discovery lay the greatest revelation of all, that sometimes the most profound strength comes not from enhancement or advantage, but from the simple courage to do what's right, whatever the cost. As dawn broke over the Brooks estate, casting golden light through the laboratory windows, a new day began. For Nathan, for Lily, for two families long divided by secrets and mistrust. The path forward would not be easy, the wounds not quickly healed. But in that moment of fragile peace, of tentative understanding, hope flickered like a flame in the darkness, resilient, enduring, impossible to extinguish. And in that hope lay the true legacy of Daniel Morgan, of Martha Brooks, of all those who had fought for a future where technology served humanity's highest aspirations rather than its darkest impulses. A legacy not of power or control, but of wisdom, compassion, and the courage to stand for what's right even when standing alone. A legacy that Lily Carter, now Lily Morgan Brooks, would carry forward, one day at a time, one choice at a time, into whatever future awaited.